Like when I was coming from college, I would have said it would have been Christmas time. I would have been doing my feature, or not my feature, my final year project. I was quite busy with that, so I'd done a feature-length script for my final year project. And I had Trina, the amazing Trina. My God, I love Trina. I love Trina. So I was working on that, and I kind of got this urge. Something was telling me, maybe you should start looking for work now. So I had made the agenda in my own head that I was going to start looking for work after Christmas. So I was looking up production companies, getting to figure out more people's roles within the industry that I hadn't been taught in college. And I found out that most of the time your executive producer is kind of the line you go down. But then in some cases it would be the line producer, depending on the role. But for me, I wanted to direct, and I was like, right, how do I get into that? So I ended up reaching out to an AD, and she was able to give me all the information about how to step up the ladder. She was like, you're going to start off as a trainee AD. So that's where I'm currently standing now at the moment. And you work your way up. And I just kept on trying to find more people, even locally in like the Louth and Meath region, because that's where I'm from. Even though Wicklow is kind of the hotspot for film, I was like, there has to be somewhere around here that will take me on.
There has to be.
Yeah. So I found this guy called Baz Black, and I just reached out to him on LinkedIn because I used to work for a radio station before I left college, seeing that he was doing an interview, and then I figured out, oh shit, he actually owns a production company. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to actually reach out to him and ask if he wants to do a Zoom and have a coffee over Zoom. And text him on LinkedIn, and he was like, yeah, cool, sounds good. So we scheduled a time and a day, just on the normal Zoom. I introduced myself. I just basically tried everything to just shine. I was like, I'm not very confident at all, especially with people that I know have worked in the industry or whatever. And I was so nervous. I was probably like talking extremely fast. And like, this is what I done. This is what I do. Yeah. This is what I want to do. I went to this college, so on and so forth. And he was like, oh my God, I want to work with you. And I was like, awesome. And we ended up doing a few short gigs together. And then he ended up hiring me as his producer and his first AD for that feature film. So you just never know. You just never know. And I have all the faith in the world this film is going to be amazing. So I'm very excited to release that now. That's set to be released in October of this year. And
what's the name of that one?
Dublin Crust.
Dublin Crust.
Yeah.
Got it. Sounds like cool. I love crust. Pizza is a great food, and
it's set basically. It's based on a true story. It's set around like his time when he was in a band. It was basically a punk band, and it's kind of like how 10 years of friendship, they broke up 10 years later, and then they come back together to try and reform the band. And it's kind of like how their lives have changed and spiraled in different ways. And
it's based on a true story.
Yeah, well, for the most part of it, some of it, I suppose, as you would say, is Hollywoodized, but it is good. It is very good now. I would say it's like the aim would be to try and get that released globally. Like, you know, we're thinking the likes of Film 4, and that would be a massive benefit to this type of film. It kind of just fits into that genre.
Oh,
so
Good stuff. So that is the most information-packed and exciting intro we ever had. If you're just tuning in, we have Nicole Duff with us, and thank you for that story. You really have to take a chance on yourself, and what's new about this interview so far is like we've tried to do a good job for people in Carlow Creative Club separating college and your transition into the industry, but I kind of like how you pushed yourself out of the comfort zone. You started that transition before you even graduated, right? And then going on LinkedIn, reaching out to people, starting at the bottom, as Drizzy Drake says, and then moving your way up. It's really paid dividends. And Dublin Crust, I got to check it out.
It does sound incredible, Nicole, actually. Yeah. And like a quick question for you, actually. You were also working on the Netflix series Winx, the Fate Saga, am I correct?
Yeah, my first job with Netflix was actually a feature film called The Wonder, and then I went on to be a trainee AD for the Winx Saga, and then I got working with the same crew. Then again, I'm after being hired only this week to hop on next week for another feature film with that same crew. So Yeah, it's really exciting. It kind of just starts to spiral. So like, I'll let you ask your question. I'm sorry. You didn't even ask that
we
question.
have nothing. We
Yeah,
have
no,
nothing.
continue there.
I just woke up. So, yeah, we have nothing.
But do continue there, Nicole. I liked what you were leading on to there, because it kind of goes back to like what Carlow Creative Club is for. The foundation of this club is all about networking, and every interview we've done so far, we really want to emphasize the importance of getting to know new people, reach out to new contacts, and how like that could actually have a domino effect for us starting out in the industry. And like just what you were saying there, as it spirals on, if you'd like to continue, we'd love to hear more.
Absolutely, yeah. So it really is like a spiraling effect. Like, as I said there, I have no confidence at all. But by God, did I know I wanted to work with Netflix. Like, I had put that out there early on. I was like, I'm going to get a job with Netflix. And I believed in it so hard. And yeah, like, I mean, look, you're going to have days and you're going to be like, no, like, it's not going to work out or whatever. And it's tough. It's not an easy industry to get into. I won't say it's easy, but if you are determined as hell and just keep on putting yourself out there, they're going to see that. They're going to see that effort. They're going to see, shit, she wants a job, like, and she wants to be here like everybody else. I got working with Netflix first because I done a passport to production course with Screen Ireland.
Okay.
So I had found it's kind of interesting. I was putting myself out there through CVs, hitting up directly, like solely just production companies, individually.
And was that LinkedIn as well, or is that a bit of Instagram too? What were you reaching out to the production company?
It would have been, LinkedIn was a massive help to kind of see who was working within that sector. So whether it was into, like, if you were interested in producing, you could easily find out through LinkedIn if, you know, who was working within that company and whether or not, like, they were a producer or not. Like, even looking up people that you might find on LinkedIn on IMDb was a massive benefit, because you're going to find all of the head of departments in your IMDb, and then you're going to be able to further research their name and try and find a contact. So it's a serious amount of work. It's like you're just going in circles of like going from LinkedIn to Google searching to IMDb, and
you're a director in one field, and then you're like an investigative journalist and like a private investigator. You have to not make it creepy, and then reach out to them and be like, "Hey, I do good work. You do good work. What projects you have." What were you gonna say?
Yeah, like if you actually find out even some of the work that they have done, that's what I try to do. So you want to try and stand out in some sort of way, and one of the ways I would have been trying to do that was finding out what work they had already done, like what films they were on before. And I tend to had seen them films already, or TV shows or whatever, and I was just like, oh yeah, I've seen this, I've seen that, or whatever, and I'd love to work with you. And would you be interested in having a Zoom call or whatever? Like, really put yourself out there, even if you're like, you know, these were just emails, they weren't phone calls or anything. And then when that phone call rang, it was a job, you know? So the passport of production came up. I applied for it. I got selected for it. I done the course. It was a weekend course. And then they automatically put me into a job. Now, you don't get to pick your job. They send out your CVs to people across all over Ireland that are doing filmmaking, and they try to accommodate you within like a travel region of you, so that you're not being overworked or whatever.
Okay.
So it was about 2 weeks after doing the course, I was given a phone call, and it was the third AD on this film set called The Wonder, and he was like, hey, you know Baz? I know Baz. I actually went to college with Baz. So like, that's what I'm saying. You start to realize that everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, he was like, I'd love to see what you're like on set. And like, I had only worked on one job before that, which would have been a commercial, and went on that. And it was a big difference. Like, you know, you think you're prepared. Yeah, you think you're prepared, and then you're like, shit, and you're going to be tired. Like, they're long hours, it's tough work. But you really have to just, you know, stick with it and realize that we're all here for the same reason. We're all here to make something that we want to do well in the long run. And then eventually you're going to learn enough to go up the next step of your ladder. So it's just like that. It's just a spiraling thing where it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then after I hopped off that job, my phone rang again, and I was offered a job then with Winx. And then it went dead for months, as I'm sure you may have heard. And then
didn't hear.
Yeah, no, it went really quiet for a few months now. It does tend to go quiet at around Christmas time. And it was quiet then January, February, and March. So
you're
that's
back up again, and you know
so it's a lot of like freelance work, and like I suppose like with this industry, that's where you kind of have to start off, like and like it is a booming industry in this country, like so. As we all get a bit older, as the years go on, like there's sure to be more work for everyone there in the industry. But just quick question there off the top of my head, Nicole. Because you were working on Netflix for Fate the Wings Saga, and you're working on a few independent films as well. Can you like tell us like can you compare like the two of them and tell us like what's like working for this big massive production company TV series, and what's the like kind of like working for maybe a lower budget independent film, and like how would they differ?
Yeah, what's the difference of the vibes on set between the two and the expectations?
It's a very, very good, interesting question as well. So we'll start with Netflix first, because like that would have been the first one I had done. So you're walking on set. We'll say Winx, for example. You know, they were already in production when I'd started. So I was walking on to people who already knew each other, and you might get hired as a daily. So you might only be asked to do a day or two a week, and then they might be like, oh, we'll call you back when we need you again. And you might get a call for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, or you might get a call the following week. So it always changes. But you have to be available within these dates, within these times, whatever. And if you can't do them, they won't ring you back, or they might ring you back for a few weeks. So you kind of just have to be flexible as such. Yeah. When I walked on, I was like so nervous, because I was like, you know, shit, I don't know anyone on this set. I was after getting so used to the crew that I'd worked with, and now I was being thrown back into the deep end.
Yeah, it's like first day at a new school, except every month or every 2 weeks you're at a new school, and you got to learn everyone again.
Mm-hmm.
Meet everyone.
It's tough. Yeah. And it's like imposter syndrome. Like you kind of feel like, shit, I don't belong here. But you have to, you know, you just have to go out there and be like, no. And then just talk to people. Like that's what I kept on doing, is like, no matter who I passed, I'd introduce myself and just, you know, saying your name just to get that name remembered, you know. And if they say your name wrong, just correct them. Be like, because like Nicola is a big one for me. I always get called Nicola, and I'm like, no, it's Nicole, but I say it really politely. I'm just like, oh, my name's actually Nicole, but like Nicola's fine, you know. And then usually they laugh, and it's like, oh.
I do that too. It's actually, my name is Brendan, but it's pronounced asshole, and then they understand after that.
Yeah.
Exactly. I deal with the same thing. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So what was it? Yeah, so I walked on, didn't know anyone, and I was given my sector of where I was working, met a few people, and it's just go, go, go. Everyone's in their departments. There's like, you've your role, and that's that. So trainee AD, you're basically looking after your third AD, you're looking after your first AD, and then you can be given the responsibility to look after your cast and your crew. You'll start kind of doing small jobs within the cast and crew, because it's to teach you what you're going to be doing when you become a third AD, if you get me. So it's just that kind of, it can be a slow starter at first. You're kind of just like getting the ins and outs. You've got a walkie-talkie as well, so you've constantly got someone shouting in your ear, so you have to get used to that while you're doing your job. And you start learning kind of like walkie lingo, and it can be a little bit intense at first, like, you know, because like for me, I was just like, what is going on?
That project, like the slang, and just like it's like when you're texting, you know, you might kind of do a shorter, quicker version to get your message across. When you're on the basketball court, when you're, you know, in a music recital, wherever you are, like the level of communication and the words they use, it differs. So it's kind of like you're going, like the different school analogy. It's like now you're going into a different school, and it's like in a different county, a different state. You got to learn the lingo all over again.
And actually,
and that can be.
Sorry to cut you off there, but since you were just talking about the Netflix production there with the Saga, can you just compare that to like what's it like working on like an independent film then, and how would the vibes and the feeling kind of differ to what you experienced with like a big Netflix production?
Yeah, so it really is. It just the difference there big time would be expect to take on more in independent. So you're given more roles within independent filmmaking than you would be if you started off as a trainee, let's just say, for example, with Netflix.
Yeah.
So by that, you're kind of just multitasking a lot more. Not that you're any less important with Netflix or anything like that. Like, you know, your job is very important as a trainee AD. But when you're with independent filmmaking, it's just that you kind of have to be able to open yourself up to like anything. Like you could end up having to help lighting crew or camera crew, or you could end up being thrown, like, for example, one of the days we hadn't got a makeup artist and it was like, hey, can you do makeup? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So you just don't know what you're going to be thrown at. So in a way, that's also good because you're also getting to, it's kind of like college. You're kind of getting to mix up jobs and you get to see what you like, what you don't like.
No, when you're speaking there, let me think of like in studio this year, we had the same thing where no matter what your job is, like there's going to be at least a 30-minute block of time where you're helping someone else with theirs. And there's definitely value in that.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And it's tough. Like, you know, like we gave ourselves a kind of a little bit more of a time constraint than what we had planned for due to budget.
Mm-hmm.
And we done a feature film in 7 days.
Oh, hell yeah. That's incredible.
That's intense, you know. You're thinking, oh my God, like, you know, that sounds great, but you're after doing crazy hours and it's like, oh my God, like that, it's that wee bit longer than your standard hours with Netflix. So there's pros and cons to both.
Okay. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's really good. One thing, so we'll start sliding into the end. We might cut this bit out, but we'll start sliding into the end now because we're at about 19 minutes. So we'll try to get 3 more good minutes in and then we'll let you go. Great stuff there, Nicole.
That was incredible, Nicole. Wow.
Yeah, some really good value in there for everyone trying to make that break into the film industry, the difference between working on more independent sets versus Netflix sets, smaller sets versus bigger sets, and the roles you take on in each. The one thing that I kind of really want to touch on is you've mentioned before, just like us and just like most people we know that are creative, you've struggled with confidence. I think anybody that's a creative person is going to be a little bit more, at least for me, like a little bit more emotional. So I might be kind of reacting to criticism or something like that. Like your work is precious to you. And you mentioned the imposter syndrome as well. If you were running a class, you know, let's say like in our course at IT Carlow, in your course and your lecture, you had just 1 minute, right? Just 1 minute on this day to talk to the students who are struggling with the confidence, struggling with the imposter syndrome. I feel like you're the perfect person that's worked through those things and you're still making moves and doing stuff despite that. What would you say to these young students with similar dreams to yours?
You know, everyone always says don't give up, but I mean, just believe in yourself is probably the biggest thing I could say. Because I know for a straight fact, if I didn't believe in myself, I wouldn't be where I am today. I kept on telling myself, I can do this because I want to be there like everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I just never gave up. And even when those days are so hard and you're down and you might have had a bad day on set and you feel you might have gotten corrected for something that you've done wrong or whatever, come home, realize, okay, that was a bad day. I've got another day tomorrow. You belong there. You're not there for no reason. You didn't get offered that for no reason. You're like, you know, and just keep going, and the hard work will pay off.
Oh yeah.
So just don't stop.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because anxiety will talk to us and be like, you're messing up. You don't deserve to be here. You know, like, everyone knows you're going to mess up. But like, if you can kind of just talk back to that voice and be like, I earned this spot. I belong here. Like when you said that, you belong here. Look yourself in the mirror if you're watching this, if you're struggling, and just tell yourself that you belong here. You know, your goal might take longer to reach than you want it to, but it's still attainable, whether you're 18, 28, 38, or 48. Like it's still attainable.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Like just don't ever give up and don't let your mind stop you, because I've let my mind stop me so many times before, and this is the only time that I won't let it knock me, because I'm like, no, I worked hard to get here. Like we went to college, you know, we didn't go to college for nothing. And we have goals, we have passions, and if you want it bad enough, you'll get it. And I mean that. I mean that.
That's incredible, Nicole.
Goosebumps.
Just to wrap it up here.
Yeah. Just again, thank you so much for helping us out today. Carlow Creative Club, episode 3. And just before you go, real quick, you just opened up a shop as well.
Yes. So I am set to open. Oh, sorry. Say that again.
No, I just said tell us a bit about your shop, actually.
Yeah. So sorry. So I basically with film, I wanted to do something that made me really happy and calm and relaxed because there is anxiety with film as well. And like that, we were just talking about trying to stay motivated and everything. And the work isn't as consistent starting off for me anyway. That could be different for you. I'm not going to say it's the same for everyone, but for me, it wasn't anyway. So I was like, I'm going to self-invest in something that I love. So I'm setting up my own crystal, spiritual and healing store. That's opening.
Name drop.
It's called the Misty Hollows and it's set to open on the 21st of May this month. So 2022. So literally less than 3 weeks away. And there's a lot going on at the minute, but I'm excited.
Hollows, what town is it in?
Carrickmacross, County Monaghan.
I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that, but you heard her. If you're listening at home, if you're watching at home, you heard her. Check out the shop. And Nicole, entrepreneur, filmmaker, you're doing it all. Thank you for all your tips today.
You're an incredible interviewee as well, and you're very relatable. And I think our audience would love to see this interview with a very relatable, genuine, humble character.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. You're so kind. And thank you so much for asking me to do this as well, because I mean, I want to help people. I want to help people. That's my ultimate goal, is to help people. And I just want to shine light on the real life of like real life on like what it's like to work in film. There's no point in faking it all the time. You have to sometimes talk about the real stuff, and I think that's really important for everyone and people's mental health as well. So I really want to shine light on that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nicole. And real quick, apologies to Gal Gadot. We didn't have time for you today. However, next week we will. Thanks everyone for watching. Say bye. Say bye.